Hello, everyone, and welcome to us Live, a weekly broadcast on blockchain tokenization and token economies. We like to feature weekly episodes with leaders in the industry to discuss the latest in blockchain. And on this episode, we're going to be discussing enhancing data management with decentralized databases. And with us today, we have Pavel Bains, which is CEO of Bluzelle. Pavel, welcome to OSC Live.
Hey, thanks, Jose, for inviting me on.
So before we jump into decentralization and databases, I want to start with your background. So apart from being a CEO of Bluzelle, you're an active contributor to Fast Company, VentureBeat, Forbes, the Huffington Post, and you also have some experience in both corporate and startup, such as Disney, EA, and you also had a startup called StoryPanda. So can you tell us about your background before getting into the blockchain space?
So my real background was in digital media, entertainment, primarily around video games. So I used to run video game studios from Vancouver. Video gaming is pretty big here. And fortunately, I got to work on some really cool projects, throughout the 2000s. And then as the iPad was coming out, and people are starting to use it, I wanted to start my own company. And so we transitioned from, like I said, worked for Disney, did projects with Microsoft, EA, said, okay, you know what, let's start our own media company around children's entertainment. And primarily it was around book publishing on the iPad. We saw that, hey, it was a cool tool that you can use to do interactive books. So my co-founder and I, James, we launched StoryPanda, which is really specifically to target at parents who were new parents, 30 to 40 years old, higher income owners. They're the ones who are actually buying all the iPads, and they had kids. So we said, if that's the main demographic who are buying iPads, their kids are young, they're the ones who will probably be reading to them on the iPad and giving them these interactive tools. So we had an awesome chance to work with, companies like DC to do some books with them. So, Batman books, did stuff with Peanuts, so Charlie Brown, Snoopy, DreamWorks as well. We also work with some of the biggest upcoming artists in the world, authors, the illustrators, authors, because what we found was new authors couldn't publish their own books. It was really hard to do it. So we created a publishing platform that allowed them to get their own iPad books out. So great content. I think we put about 40 books out. Problem was, all of a sudden, when you had people willing to pay for content, within like 2 years, everybody got used to free content on iPads and saying, why should I pay anything? Everything should be free. Angry Birds kind of said, well, why not? Why are we charging $20 for these games? Let's just give it away for 99 cents. Then somebody said, let's just give it away for free and go on a free-to-play model. So all of a sudden, that entire demographic just shifted, and no one was selling books anymore because everyone was just trying to game it by doing a free-to-play system and hope that they get, in-app purchases, which I think went down to like less than 0.5% would buy and things like that. So the model just didn't end up working. So even though we did some really cool stuff, learned a lot, we had to put StoryPanda away.
Yeah, there's definitely content nowadays. It's the expectation that it should be free. Even with music, now we have streaming services, and nobody really buys content today. So how did you get involved with the blockchain space? How long ago did you start looking into and researching blockchain?
So around 2014, middle of 2014, I started stumbling onto Bitcoin and saying, what's this all about? And I got really enamored by the technology of it. And so what I found really interesting was it was everything I was just kind of passionate about on my own. It was heavy technology. I was always interested in distributed computing. Went to school for finance, economics as well. And and then a lot around, really big into social impact and poli-sci and, improving economies. So it kind of combined a whole bunch of everything that you're interested in was actually involved in one technology that could power all of it. So that's what got me really fascinated in blockchain. It was just basically a combination of a whole bunch of different passions, and said, hey, this thing could be really cool to work with and do. And, let's find out more.
And so now you're CEO of a company that does decentralized database management, and it's called Bluzelle. Can you tell us what Bluzelle is and how it works?
So to do that, we got to go a bit into the history of Bluzelle. So when my co-founder and I first, Neeraj Maraga, when we first started working on it, we just said, let's just work on some blockchain projects. We didn't know exactly which way to go, what to do, and let's just start cutting our teeth around certain areas. So over the past couple of years, we worked with, just doing several different things. So one was going after corporates, trying to get them into blockchain strategy. So, we did a KYC product with 3 banks in Asia. One included HSBC. Another one was MUFG, a major Japanese bank. And then you had OCBC, a major Singapore bank. Then we also work with insurance companies like AI and MSIG doing insurance-based projects around the blockchain. Did some smart contract work. Just like I said, just really trying to figure out what are we doing here, where do we want to go. While we're doing those big bank projects, we started realizing that, hey, you could be building a decentralized application like a KYC product. You can be using Ethereum as an operating system. But now where are you going to store all that data? Where are you going to put that? Because you still got to put it in a centralized place. So then we started looking at, we had to take Azure for those projects and kind of blockchainify them so it could store the data and files how we needed. And then we started looking deeper into it. My CTO, he's just saying, well, traditional cloud-based storage is probably not adept for data management in the long run with all this data that's coming out. He said, if we actually take blockchain principles, we can actually apply it to a whole new database protocol and have a more secure database network, a more scalable and a much more reliable one for developers. So that's when we kind of just said, hey, we kind of discovered that and we did it for ourselves and said, hey, let's turn Bluzelle into basically a new database protocol that uses decentralized and blockchain principles to store and manage data in a much better way.
So before comparing a centralized versus a decentralized database, what are some of the security or integrity issues with data management with today's companies using a centralized database?
The big one is integrity. Is when we were talking to developers, was they were concerned in hosted services, cloud-based services that, hey, because of the security potential security breaches, how do they know that data wasn't changed or manipulated? And the fact that we can go there and say, hey, we've built our own consensus algorithm that every time a change is done by you, it's verified by the network, and you know that's your data and no one has corrupted it, no one's changed it. That was really strong, and that stood out to developers. On the security aspect, it was, hey, in a centralized storage cloud-based service, you have multiple points of attack that somebody could come in and, basically take some of the data, use same, hacking or attacking methods and go to the second cloud server and basically steal more data. So people are saying, hey, that's not reliable either. And as you're seeing so much data being consumed or transferred by all these applications that are built, you're getting a bigger problem. You're seeing new data breaches, announcements almost every week now, major ones. So when you decentralize it using basically, everybody's seen the blockchain decentralized model. If you take all that data, break it up and split it up into a bunch of computers or nodes all around the network, it's almost impossible to break into each one to steal all the data.
Yeah, and here's we get so there's two things. There's distributed and decentralized with databases, and I want to mention something like Amazon Web Services, which is distributed because they have data centers across the globe, or they have a few across the U.S., but it's centralized because it's owned by AWS. So how does something like AWS compare to a decentralized database, and what are the common database structures that the companies you worked with use?
It would be, so, I mean, AWS is they've just got servers in different places. It's not technically a distributed database service. It's got backups that are in different places. So you still have, they're basically clusters, right? And if you break into one cluster, you can take majority of it, and similar hacking methods, you can break into another. Now, that's what people get with, whether it's Oracle, MongoDB, AWS, Azure. With a decentralized, we're not controlling any of the nodes. We're allowing, let's say yourself, your mom, anyone out there who's got a computer can basically download our protocol, turn it on. So instead of mining for Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other cryptocurrency, we're saying, hey, just free up some of your storage space on your computer, earn some of our token back. So basically, we're turning every computer into an Airbnb model.
Great. So so is it literally any common computer can become part of Bluzelle to be part of this like distributed or like and decentralized database?
That's our goal, is to have every common computer, laptop, spare computer lying around that, isn't like, doesn't have to be the most super powerful one. It just got, it's got the minimum requirements, or even eventually your cell phone, which, you've got so much storage power on there, or an Xbox, PlayStation. Our goal is that every single one of those can be units or nodes.
Great. And how does this like compare to a centralized database? Is it more expensive to store data on a decentralized database? Because I assume the people get paid in tokens, right? That store like other people's data.
Our goal is, and so our research shows that it should cost less than half of competitive products. And our goal is to basically get to there. But the other one, that it's not just the cost, that when you talk to developers, that is a motivating factor. But the big thing that they say is the reliability and the integrity of the data weighs into it a lot too.
Great. So can we talk a little bit about that? So how is like integrity and reliability sort of solved by decentralizing a database? So what are some of the ways that people hack a centralized database, and some of the ways that they can't hack it with a decentralized one?
So the easiest way to explain how a decentralized one, what we do, the compare, the image we try to get is, let's say, Jose, you've got a big, massive email list. We take that email list and we print it onto a plate. We take that plate and replicate it 1,000 times. Now we take all those plates and just smash them into thousands and thousands of pieces. Each of those pieces we store on a different node on the network. So now if someone wants to actually come in and steal your email list, they have to go into every single node, which has its own encryption, separate encryption built into it, and take all those pieces and put it together. Even if they got into just one node and took one piece, all they got, it might just say, instead of, Pavel, it might just say AV, right? It doesn't even have my full name. It doesn't have where I live, my email address. They have to actually go everywhere else. So it's just meaningless content because they don't have anything else to do it from. So that's how our decentralized model works.
Great. And is this something that's for more enterprise level with databases, or is it something that is also consumer for consumers as like in competition with something like Dropbox and data storage?
No, that would be different, because Dropbox is file storage. And so if you look at Filecoin, Storage, the more blockchain companies around that, they are all file storage. So that is, PDFs, MP3s, movies, pictures, as you see. We're pure data management. So our product's really focused on the developer, who's, anytime a developer wants to build a new application, they need to have a database to store that data on and run that application. So we're really focused on the developer market. And it doesn't have to be the enterprise developer market. It could be, yourself, you're ready to launch a new product. You use Heroku to do a bunch of things. And you go, hey, I need a database. Let's spin Bluzelle up. So the key difference is, with Bluzelle, it's not just for blockchain projects. It's actually for anybody building up a database. Anybody building any application should be using a decentralized database, whether they're building a decentralized application or a traditional application.
Great. So what's it take for somebody to either become a miner on the platform or use the platform as a database? Are you guys already up and running?
So our alpha is out right now, and that's not, we're now not allowing people to be nodes yet. So we have a bunch of nodes given to us by Microsoft and British Telecom that are basically providing the storage for our alpha version. So right now we're focused on the developer. It's basically go to the site, sign up, join our Gitter, download the Docker, and they can actually start using the alpha product right now on the testnet. And so a developer can use it to create, read, update, delete, just like they can do with a traditional database. It's just in a real early form.
And are the miners like rewarded in your own native token?
Eventually they will be once that's up and running.
And is
so
that
right now, it's a chicken and egg, right? You got to figure which side you want to focus on. So right now we're focused on the developer side.
Great. And then I assume there'll be like efforts towards like liquidity for somebody that wants to exchange their tokens. Great. It's been a good discussion on learning a little bit about a centralized database, a database versus a decentralized database. So where can people learn more about where can they either find you or learn more about Bluzelle?
The easiest thing is obviously go to bluzelle.com, join our newsletter. Other one is we're pretty active on Twitter. So Bluzelle at Bluzelle HQ. And if developers they go to our Gitter tool, which we're using basically and they can engage right with our developers firsthand. So if they go to our website, they can see the developers link, go there, click on it, go to our Gitter, and our team is usually there to respond and work with all the other people working with us right now.
Great. And for the live viewers, or if you're listening to this on the podcast version, you can go ahead and find those links down in the description below. Thank you for joining us on OSC Live.
Thanks, Jose.